Hey guys, welcome back to Storytale Cakes. In this episode, I'm going to be showing you how to make this strikingly gorgeous red and gold engagement cake. I was lucky enough to be given the opportunity by my friend Jen to create an engagement cake. Happy engagement, Jen. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and let's bake a story. So the first step is to prepare 3 of your cakes. I've got here 3 red velvet cakes, and I'll put the link in the description box below if you want the recipe for it. Add a bit of chocolate ganache to secure your cake board, and then add the first layer on top. I recommend piping a ring of ganache around the cake and then add the cream cheese frosting in the middle. This just helps secure the cream cheese frosting in place. All this chocolate goodness is seriously making me in the mood to eat cake. Comment below if you feel the same. Okay guys, next up I like to use a scraper to go around the cake because it gives an idea where you can trim the cake off, so highly recommended to do that step. Then you just want to use a spatula to coat the outside with a bit of chocolate ganache and a scraper to smooth it all out nice and straight. To seal up the chocolate seams, just dip your spatula in a bit of hot water and go around over the cake. You can do this with a scraper as well. It really makes the chocolate nice and smooth, and then just place in the fridge for 20 minutes. The next step is to use your delicious leftover ganache and add a little bit onto a presentation cake board. You want your ganache to be quite firm like this. Before you add the fondant over the cake, remember to add a bit of water to help adhere it. Once you've dusted your table with a bit of corn flour, just roll the fondant out to your desired thickness, and you may find you get a little bit of air bubbles. All you need to do is get a pin and pop those babies up. Next up, you just want to add a little bit of corn flour onto your rolling pin so it doesn't stick, and drape it over the cake. The key here is to skewer the edges first because all the weight is there, and then gradually work your way downward. Shout out to my homie Cakes by Chopper for this awesome tip. So cut the cake slowly in increments so you don't stretch the cake. Give your fondant some TLC belly rub just so it's a bit smooth, and then pinch the edges and re-smooth it again for the nice sharp edge. Now after you're happy with your smooth fondant, just take a ruler and measure how tall your cake is. In this case mine is about 6 inches, and I'm going to divide it into 6 equal parts, meaning each piece is going to be 1 inch each. What I'm going to do is have red strip and then white strip, red strip and then white strip, red strip and then white strip. I'm now cutting out a 1 inch strip from paper as a template to go around my cake, and this is going to help give the perfect gap in between the red stripes. You just need to keep in mind that the width of the stripe should equal the exact distance between the gaps. I'm now just dusting the table with some corn flour and rolling out a 1 inch red stripe just to go around the entire cake. Go ahead and do any color you want. You can do black, gold, or even be bold and do marble. Now the fondant is still fresh, so you can just use your fingers and smoothers to join up the seam. This is where our awesome template comes in handy. Just wrap it around, pin it down, and you can see how it helps create a nice straight line. I've got a circle that was cut out with a bit of fondant and it measures about 3 inches in size. Of course you can have your plaque like a little bit bigger or smaller depending on how you like it, but the main thing with this you need to keep in mind is once you just roll out the fondant, make sure the thickness is quite thick and that you let it dry completely so it's solid. Before painting, I recommend using an edible pen to draw on how you want the words to be. I'm using yellow so it doesn't really show through, and then I'm just going to paint the gold over it. Add some water and then stick on the plaque. You can also use toothpicks to help it set, and once it's set you can remove it. And then just paint your border with a bit of edible gold. I've got here some yellow fondant and I'm going to add a little bit of Tylose powder into it just to make it a bit more firm. If you don't have Tylose powder, you can just use fondant, but it will be a little bit harder to work with. Or you can choose to use gum paste as well. So I'm just mixing a little bit in, and what this Tylose powder does is it really just makes it firm like instantly, and you want your cake toppers to dry. I definitely recommend adding in Tylose powder. Next up, I'm just gonna lightly dust my mold with some corn flour so it doesn't stick. Give it a bit of a wriggle, and then give it a bit of a tap. Don't worry if there's a bit of corn flour left because we're gonna paint it anyway. So just get a small proportion out, spread it on the mold, and just give it a bit of a roll so the patterns really stick in. And then what I like to do is just take my knife and trim it away. And the satisfying part is it'll just plop
out. Oh, and this one too.
Just add a little bit of water and stick it wherever you like, then paint it in that gorgeous golden luster dust. I do have a detailed tutorial which I'll put in the description box if you want to know how to make this gorgeous gold paint. I think if I wasn't a baker, I'd love to be a painter because it's so relaxing. To create our sugar leaves, just dust your table with bitter corn flour, roll out the fondant and use a leaf cutter to cut it out. You can see my leaf is quite thick, but I'm going to roll the sides and leave the middle part thick. The reason for this is I want to cut it again and then use that thick part to point the wire through into it. Poke the wire through. Then press it down and use a balling pin to kind of ball the sides and a veiner to give it that nice leaf shape pattern. Make sure your leaves have completely dried before you paint it in that gorgeous golden majestic color. On to making our carnation flower, you can use a toothpick and just add a little bit of fondant. Make sure you let this set overnight so it's completely dried. You can also do this on a wire, and I guess some benefits of doing it on a wire means you can kind of twist the bottom part and let the carnation dry upside down. So in that way it doesn't bloom out as much if you want closed carnations. I have here two cutters. One is an actual carnation cutter and then one is just a frilly one that you can find at general stores. It's a bit hard to find this cutter, so I'm going to show you how to make a carnation cutter from just a normal frill cutter. To create the carnation shape, just simply roll out some gum paste, cut around the edges and ball out the edges as well. If you find your gum paste is kind of sticking, just lift it and add a little bit of corn flour.
Got nice and thin, you just want to turn it around like this. Take the original ball cutter you had and just fold it backwards, fold it backwards. You start filling these out and around. You're starting to form your carnation.
Let your cute little flower dry up, and in the meantime just make another layer with the same size cutter. We're going to ball it out, but this time we're going to add that layer below the first one. So this is a white one and I'm going to show you a red one because it shows up on camera a bit more. What you need to do now is you can either let it dry with a toothpick on a foam piece like this, or if you have a wire piece you can kind of twist it around and let it dry upside down. To make the rose, a really cool tip is to add the thick wire through and then just twist it down and twist it again so it's nice and secure. That way you don't have to worry about the foam falling off. Just snip off the bottom part as well, add a little bit of water on that red piece so you can kind of have something to overlap that foam. To make the petals, you could use CMC or Tylose powder. Just add a little bit into your fondant so it turns into like a gum paste mixture. If you find it sticking your hands, just add Crisco. It helps prevent the fondant colors from smearing. Cut out 6 petals and then just ball them out so they're nice and thin. Make sure you use a foam pad as well because it doesn't ball on hard surfaces. I like to add water on just one side of the petal because when you look at a rose, it has a kind of like a nice spiral patterns and some parts of the petal actually stick out. Just wrap the first petal around and then the second 2 together. Then just use the remaining 3 petals and tuck it below each other to get that nice spiral pattern. I'm going to let the rose dry on a foam pad and cut out another 5 petals in the meantime. Once you're done balling it out, just use your thumb to kind of cuff it into this nice shape and let it dry on an apple crate for about 5 to 10 minutes. So once it's nice and dry, just add water and place it around the rose in a spiral pattern. A handy tip for you, I find that when you turn the rose upside down and apply the petal, it gives you a little bit more control as well. You can add a little bit of water on the bottom and then press it down to help secure it and then let it dry on a rack. Last week, my friend asked me what to use instead of posy picks and I came up with a really cool idea that you can use: balloon sticks.
This is really like an inexpensive way if you don't want to buy posy picks because they're quite expensive. Balloon sticks are literally like $2 a packet and you can use them as posy picks. You don't need this part, but just the stick itself. The reason why I use this instead of straws is because it's a little bit more firmer. So you can still use straws, but I recommend balloon sticks if your flower is quite heavy because it's more sturdy.
Use your pliers to snip the balloon sticks, and then just some floral tape to wrap the leaves and roses together. To make it extra secure, you can add a little bit of fondant on top of your balloon sticks to avoid gaps. Use your pliers to snip off the excess and place it through the balloon stick. And just remember to add a little bit of fondant if there are any gaps in between the stick. You can also use the scissors to help push the flowers downwards without damaging the cake. Gosh, I'm in love with this cake. Don't you guys love that red and gold combo with just a hint of white?
As always, thanks for watching guys. I hope you enjoyed this elegant cake tutorial. If you do happen to make this, remember to share it with me on Facebook or Instagram. I really love seeing all the photos you guys send me and it really makes my day. And I know in the previous video I said that I'll release a Disney tutorial, but your girl has been working a little bit longer for that one. I promise the next video it will be up and it's gonna be super majestic. Stay tuned and I'll see you soon for the next tutorial.